Hey guys, we're back, and we're going to be taking a look very soon at Aliens, another glorious day in the corpse game from Gale Force 9. But before you can play, there's something that not everybody knew going into this, is that the models and figures that come with the game do require some assembly. And as you can see, I've already gotten a few of them put together, and I did the Marines as well. They were pretty easy. I'll show that, but I saved a spruce of the Aliens to show you how to put them together for those of you who might not be familiar with miniature games where you have to actually assemble the miniatures. So here we have our instructions on the Aliens. It's 2 pages, front and back. And there's the one for the Marines. And you can see they were pretty easy. Most of the Marines, I think, were only 2 pieces. Maybe 3. But the only one that gave me any kind of trouble was this guy here, where you had to glue on the gun arm and the other arm, so gluing 2 arms together to hold the gun. I've always hated doing that, even with my miniature war games, but they still weren't too bad. And in here, I can show you what the finished assembled Aliens look like. They're a little different than the ones that were shown in the promo footages, the renders. The tails are different, and they're in slightly different poses. Some of them had their tail curled around the base, and I'm not sure, I didn't really try, but I'm not sure if you could make that pose with the way they come. But there's 4 different alien models in different poses. And then the arms and the tails are interchangeable, so you can swap them out however you want. You can see there's a couple different, they might have the same tail. I'm not sure. I've got them all mixed in there, the different kinds. But you end up with a lot of cool variety as far as they go in poses and positions, because you can mix and match. They also have 2 head options for each one with a closed mouth and one with an open mouth. There's even a couple that have, if I can find one, that have their tongue things sticking out. So that's for the Aliens. Then we got the Marines. And I think they came out pretty good. The one perk to having this type of miniature where you have to cut them off the spruce and assemble them is that they can get a lot more detail in the miniature itself than you could with a 1-piece mold, and I'm sure that's why they went with these. So I feel bad for all the people who don't like putting them together or don't want to put them together. Gale Force 9 was offering pre-assembled miniatures and a box with foam cutouts to store them in, but it was $70 some, I think, and they were limited, so you can only get so many of them. As I spent that whole time on one figure, but yeah, you can see here there's quite a bit of detail in these, and especially for people interested in painting, a lot of cool stuff can be done with these. And I do like that they gave each of the Marines different weapon options. There's that 2-parter guy. You can see there's a couple of gaps in there, on the shoulder. I might not have put it together perfectly. I suck at putting together the 2 ones. But it's not like you had to assemble the entire thing. Most of it was literally gluing an arm on with a gun, or gluing a head on, which is pretty simple to do. And then our last 2. And our last 2 here. And also of note, they put the bases on the names on the top of the bases, and a lot of the promo images, they were across the front. And then apparently the saluting Newt here is an exclusive to the first print run. When they do a second print run of the game, she's going to have a different pose. Anyway, let's get on to actually putting them together. So you are going to need a couple things on top of the spruce. You're going to want to get yourself some kind of clippers. The little wire cutter type work, but anything like these with a flat edge on one side work much better because you can get a much closer trim to the part, and you'll see. But any kind of clippers will work. You can even do this with just a hobby knife, which I've done before, which I got my handy box cutter. This is what I use for everything. Make sure you got a nice sharp blade on there. You're going to be using that, and you can use that in place of these if you don't have them. And then you're going to need some kind of glue. Modeled plastic cement here works great if you have little children. You want to get the blue bottle, which is the non-toxic. And if you don't have those, plain old super glue will work as well. Though you have to make sure to keep your models well ventilated until they're dry. When you use that, don't put them back in the box until well after you're sure they're dry. Otherwise, the vapors of the super glue sometimes will make the plastic kind of turn white and smoky. And with black plastic models, you don't want that. So just keep that in mind. But we're going to be using all of those and our instruction sheet here. And it's very simple to put these together. If you look at your spruces here, you got your game name, your print date and everything here. And then on these, they are labeled. You can see B2 here for head, and they're set up. This whole quarter here, from here and over, is B. Down here we have A, this is C, and this is D. So they go around A, B, C, D, and those are all the parts that you're going to use. So everything in there basically is the parts you're going to use for one model. You get two head options. The head and the body options are all that really matter. The base, so the base for B right here is labeled as, I can't read it through the camera, B4, sorry. So B4 there. This is the base that you're going to use for the B model. The body for the B model is here and here, so these two halves. And then you can use either one of these two heads. So you can see we got a head here with the mouth slightly open, or one here with the tongue thing sticking out. And those are the only ones that really matter. Everything else is still labeled as B, but the arms are interchangeable on any of the models, so you don't have to worry about keeping them straight. And the tails are interchangeable on any of the models, so you don't have to worry about that. I'm going to do just this one here, just to give you an example. So the first thing we're going to want to do is clip off these little pegs here. And you want to clip these off as close to the base as you can get them, which is where these flat edge clippers come in. Otherwise, you're going to have a little nub on each side of your base that you're going to have to trim off with your hobby knife. So they pop off real easy after that. And you can check along the edges where the clips were and make sure that they're all smooth. Like that one's got a little bit of a lip on it. So you take the knife and you actually run it across. I don't know if I can get this on camera. Like this over where that was, and you smooth it right out. And the rest of them feel good. If you don't have the clippers, alternatively, you can use a knife. It's just a lot more difficult, and you got to make sure you're very careful with it. And you can go in and cut along the edges here, as close to these as you can get, but you don't want to cut the part itself. So chances are you'll cut farther away and then trim that off with a knife. I'm just going to use the clippers here since I have them. And some of these I may actually have to trim after. So we're going to cut our body section here off. And again, we can look where those were. There was one up there. It's not bad. There's one on here. Like, see, that's got a little piece of plastic sticking off. We can trim that off real quick. And that's gone. Sorry if I didn't get it completely on camera there, but and then there's one on the back of the leg here. That's not too bad. And the other one that's down there, which is no problem. So that one's good. And we're going to get the other half of the body. which is up here. I don't want this video to be long as hell too, so I'm trying to move along quickly here. Still do a good job for you. Oops, that one went flying. And again on that, look it over. Good there. That one looks fine. So then we're going to pick our head. And remember, we have to match the head to the body, so you got to look for a B head here. Just because the spines are curved in different angles. And we're going to go with this guy with the tongue. The head and the bodies, and like I said, the bases are the only ones that matter. You can mix and match to get yourself some different poses and things. We're going to clean that up a little. I'm going to do it off camera because it's easier. And honestly, you don't need to clean them up too much. I just look at the theory, I may paint these at some point, or I may get my wife to paint them. So, I did these in steps on my first batch, because all you need really to start is the body and the head. And we're going to put the instructions over here just to work on so I don't get glue on my table. And we're going to zoom in a little bit. And these instructions very well show you the pieces, like the head options have a number, and it gives you the two heads that you get to choose from, and then the body. Ideally, we're going to do this one over here, but you're going to start with one half of the body. It doesn't matter which half, they tell you a specific one, but it works either way, just because of the way they're set up. So if we can focus there, you got this little knob here. That's pretty much what's going to hold your two halves of the body together. And you can always dry fit parts to make sure that you got the right ones before you glue. And you can see, I can't get this to fit on camera. They fit at a weird angle too. But they go together like that. And they fit nice. And the head is actually going to go, you can see how the spine fits in there. So to start off, you're going to take one half and you're going to glue this head with the spine right down that path. And did I cut the wrong head? And looking back, I totally cut off an A head, which isn't going to work. We need the B heads. So always pay attention to the numbers. That was my fault for trying to hurry here. So we're doing the B body, we need a B head. And you can tell because normally you're going to take half your body here and line this head up. Well, my spine doesn't fit, so obviously that's incorrect, which is how I figured out I cut the wrong one off, but that's okay. Got ahead of myself, so we're going to take a B head real quick. Someone watching the early part of this video is probably seeing me cutting the wrong head and yelling at the camera. It's really hard to do on camera. Alright, let's try this again. So we're going to take our body half here, we're going to put a little bit of glue in it, especially if you're using the super glue. The less you use, the more, the better it is. And I like the gel because it doesn't run like the liquid. But we're going to put a little bit right here on this dot, and we're going to put a little bit up here on the shoulder, and then maybe a touch down here along the spine area, just to hold that in place. And I have it off camera here. But you can see there, the spine fits right in that little groove. And then I'm going to put the other half on. It fits right in to place there. We're just going to hold that for a couple seconds. As I said, the super glue sets almost instantly. It also sets on your fingers instantly, so you make sure you don't get that on your fingers. And then what I did with my other ones as I was doing this, I did them in waves. So this is B here. I would leave that one there and go on and work on one of the other ones. Get them all to that point. That's just me. Gives one a time to dry while you're working on the next one. But since we're only doing one here, we're going to get our base. which is right here. And you can see they have little foot imprints on them. There's little dots on there, and I can't scroll this up enough. But they kind of show you how they go. So this one towards the edge is going to be in the back. So kind of just like that. And we're going to put a dot of glue on each of these. And again, the less is more. And then we're going to get our guy to stand, sorry if it's out of focus, to stand right in those little holes. Some of these stand easier than others. This one was actually one of the harder ones to get to stand. But you can see there. We're already more than halfway done with one of them. Now just to make this easier, I'm going to do all of B like I said. So we're going to take the tail and arms that go with B. So we're going to clip them off real quick like we did the others. You just have to be careful with this harder plastic that you don't bend it too far, because it may break, and never does it break actually where you want it to. So there's our tail. I'm going to make sure I get the B arms here just to... As again, any of the arms will work. They are interchangeable. This is really hard to do. I'm looking through the camera trying to do this. So it limits my view. And the other B arms over here. But yeah, any arm and any tail will work, but it has to be the body and head and base that match. And I know from experience with the others, these arms do need to be trimmed. You can see the little knob right there. Again, if you don't plan on painting these or you aren't that picky about it, you don't have to worry about the little burrs caused by taking them off the spruce. That's just something I do. Comes from years of mini wargaming with Warhammer type figures where I had to assemble everything, and those little knobs bothered me. And then on the tail, two things I noticed with these models is that the very tip of the tail, you can see the notch right there where it was attached to the spruce. There's one on the spruce that's really bad, and that like wraps all the way around and definitely needs to be trimmed. And the other is this end. There's a little ball that kind of goes into a socket on the model. You need to trim that to make sure it's kind of round. And so you may have to cut that a little bit with a hobby knife just to trim it up. So there you can see, got rid of that burr on the tail. And we rounded this end off a little more to be used in the socket on there. I don't know how well this will show up on camera, but it says A tail right there. You can see how it's connected to the sprue, and it goes like all the way around here, so it leaves a burr kind of all the way around that tail that needs to be trimmed down. Unfortunate placement is all. But there we got the last couple parts we're going to need to finish our model here. So we are going to do the arms first, I think, because they're the easiest. And you can go ahead and do these together, is what I did. We're going to put a drop, you can see that flat spot for each of the arms. We're going to put a small drop in each of those. And then you can position the arms how you want. You can have them reaching up, reaching back. They'll fit in just about any way. And you have a few seconds to kind of position them when you first put them in, so we can get them where we want. And then you just kind of squeeze them by the shoulder here and make sure those are in good. And those are done. And then the last part, on the back of our model here, you can see the little hole there at the base of the spine. We're going to put a drop of glue in there. And then we have to decide if we want our tail hook up or hook down. You can do whatever. This guy, I think we're going to make a hook up. And we're going to try to line up the spines there. You can see there's spines on the actual, if it'll focus, there's spines on the actual tail. We're going to try to line them up with the spine of the model here. So right about like that, I think. And we're going to hold that for a few seconds to let it dry. My glue's older, so it may take a little bit longer. And there we have it. There's our finished alien drone. Much easier than it looks at first if you're not familiar with these spruce type models. For the Marines, I didn't show them because they were already put together, but theirs is even easier. On each little section you have the base with the character's name on it, and then you can refer to the instruction sheet, which is done by each specific character. And the only ones I think that were different are down here, this bottom corner, and one of the other guys, their arms were in this section. So their bodies and bases were here, and then their arms were in there with their weapons. But very easy, and again, those are labeled with the two characters that had them. And once you get everything all assembled and put together, you have yourself a virtual little army of aliens in your Marine team. You're also going to have some extra heads left over, and you can use these in other projects or whatever, or just discard them if you're not a hobbyist, and enjoy your game. One interesting thing worth noting is that there is enough space with everything in the original box to actually fit all of the miniatures, although I would suggest looking into some other form of storage, just so they don't get broken and you don't have to reattach. Probably the tails are going to be the biggest thing that are going to get broke over time by storing them in here, but they will fit if you want them to. You could just throw them in here too. Probably be safer to do that than to stack them all up like this, to be honest, because after you get them all in here, you still got to put the game boards and everything else on top. Like his tail might be a little high, so. And then your Marines go in here, so there is plenty of room. And then your game boards will go on top here. A rule book and the missions. And then these you can actually throw out once you get everything assembled. You won't need them. And there you go. Everything does fit back in the base box, at least for the base game. Once you start getting into the expansions and the extra stuff, I can't say for sure on that yet. But anyway, I hope this helps you put together your miniatures, at least give you an idea of what you're doing. If you're not a miniature person, you haven't put a lot together, this will at least give you a clue on how to do it and help you get it done. And once they're together, you never have to worry about it again. So anyway, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the full review video on Aliens: Another Glorious Day in the Corps, which should be coming out any day now.